Imagine you're trying to buy a gun in Georgia. You go online and you reach out to the owner. You meet up, hand over some cash, and leave with a gun that's yours. It's easy, no questions asked. And it's perfectly legal. Now imagine that a different person trying to buy a gun is a convicted domestic abuser, or has a restraining order against them, or serious mental health issues, or is a convicted felon. They go through the same process and they walk away with a gun. The difference? They shouldn't have been able to get one. That's where universal background checks come in. I'm Sean, I'm one of the team members working at Giffords to help end our nation's gun violence crisis. Today I'm going to explain what this law is and why our country desperately needs it. A universal background check law would require a background check be run for every single gun purchase, no matter what. Every gun sale will go through that same process, whether you're buying a gun from a federally licensed dealer, at a gun show, through an online listing, or just from a guy in the street. Now you may be thinking, what is the big deal? Most people can legally own guns, so why make it harder for everyone because of a select few? Well, I have some reasons why. In 2019, a gunman in West Texas killed 7 people after purchasing an AR-15 assault-style rifle.
Sources confirm the shooter purchased the gun from a private seller. Under federal law, individuals who buy guns from other individuals don't have to go through such a background check.
He'd already failed a background check at a licensed dealer.
The background check was run through National Instant Criminal System, the NICS system. NICS system did work. He did apply to get a gun. He was denied a gun.
He shouldn't have been able to purchase a gun, and yet he did. And he murdered innocent people with it. In 2012, a domestic abuser was barred from possessing firearms following a restraining order taken out by his estranged wife. He later killed his wife.
Radcliffe Houghton killed his wife and 2 other women in cold blood
At a salon in Wisconsin.
In the man's pocket, a copy of the restraining order his wife filed against him.
How did this happen? The day before, he purchased a gun from an unlicensed seller he met online. There was no background check. Without background checks at every point of sale, shootings like this will continue to happen, and people will die.
When is it going to be enough? When is enough people going to die before our legislature does something?
So where do we stand? What do the laws say? It depends. There is no federal law requiring universal background checks. There is federal law requiring federally licensed gun dealers, aka dealers who have registered with the government, to run a background check on every gun sale. That's a good start, and it means there is a system already in place to conduct these background checks. But like with the examples earlier, it lets a lot of people who shouldn't be able to buy a gun effectively opt out of a background check by going to an unlicensed seller. Without Congress passing a universal background check law, states have started to step up and implement their own laws.
Governor Steve Sisolak signed Senate Bill 143 into law, expanding background checks to private gun sales and transfers.
Oregon Senate Bill 941 passed the House. The bill will expand background checks on gun sales between private parties in Oregon.
Remember, here in Washington, we have universal checks, which means every gun buy requires a criminal background check.
I'm going to be signing legislation to establish universal background checks for all gun sales in Michigan.
As of early 2026, 15 states and DC have laws that are essentially universal background check laws. Several other states have some kind of background check requirements, like requiring them at gun shows, but don't go all the way. The majority of states, however, don't have any type of background check. The only way to ensure every single person goes through a background check before buying a gun is to pass a federal universal background check law. But you don't need to take my word for it. More than 90% of Americans, that's gun owners and non-gun owners alike, support background checks in all gun sales.
I don't mind the background checks. I think it's totally appropriate for a background check.
Don't buy it and give it to me right away. Because if I'm angry about something, or if, I'm just saying, if someone's like that, do a background check. Make sure that, that they're well up here.
It's definitely the way to go. I think people ought to be checked out thoroughly.
The only people who don't? Extremist Republicans and the gun lobby. The gun lobby, which are groups like the NRA, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and gun manufacturers, oppose any gun violence prevention laws. Why? Well, because they make more money when more people can have guns. And the gun lobby has a lot of money. In fact, they have so much money that they've been using it to pay politicians to support their agenda and keep any gun safety legislation from progressing. That's why we don't have a lot of strong gun safety laws from Congress. The rich gun lobby CEOs are paying off anyone they can to prevent them from passing. Our representatives are supposed to be our voices in government. But when they're paid off by entities like the gun lobby, they'll ignore what we, their constituents, actually want, and just take the path that leads to more money in their pockets.
The NRA has had a stranglehold on Congress for much too long.
And I don't trust the politicians to do anything anymore.
And that has to stop happening. The Congress should be owned by the people, not by the NRA.
We need some action now.
Universal background checks are one of the most popular gun safety policies in the US. They save lives, and they help prevent violent crime. They take less than 2 minutes to run, and 90% of them clear immediately. The only people who are really impacted by universal background check laws are the people who would fail a background check, the people who are trying to buy a gun illegally. Requiring background checks on all gun sales is one of the clearest, most common sense steps we can take to keep deadly weapons away from the people who shouldn't have them, and in turn save countless lives. Want to see where your state stands? Learn more at Giffords.org.